Ya ba bim bam, ya ba bim bam, ya ba bim bam, ya ba 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 ya ba bim bam, ya ba bim bam, ya ba ba ba. Oh ya ba bim bam, ya ba bim bam, ya ba bim bam, ya ba 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 ya ba bim bam, ya ba bim bam, ya ba ba ba.
Good evening, Shabbat Shalom, and welcome to our services. There's always some new faces, some familiar faces, and so many that have decided to come back again tonight and celebrate with us, and tomorrow, as we did last night. So it's just like every night we're just going to put a cot out here and stay for every night that we have something going on. But it's wonderful to see so many of you. Why don't we have the Strauss women come up here and light candles for us? You could choose which of the women. The cancer will lead you in, so thank you. May the Shabbat candles that we now light inspire us to see justly and gently, to look honestly and with kindness, and to see what's holy in each other.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner Shel Shabbat.
Thank you. As we turn to page 4 in our prayer books, Hine Matov, how good and pleasant it is for us to be together.
So wonderful that we are all here together on this beautiful Shabbat evening. So please take just a moment to say Shabbat Shalom or to introduce yourself to someone sitting nearby. Hine matov u'manayim shavet achim gam yachad. Hine matov u'manayim shavet achim gam yachad. Hine matov shavet achim gam yachad. Hine matov shavet achim gam yachad. Hine matov u'manayim 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 shavet achim gam yachad. Hine matov ya la la ya la 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 la. Hine matov ya la la ya la 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 la. Hine matov u'manayim shavet achim gam yachad. Hine matov u'manayim shavet achim gam yachad.
You know, it's funny when people come back after being away, they have their seat where they're going to sit. And then it's hard to tell what tune it's going to be because we try to merge the tunes for every movement that it could possibly make you comfortable. And Stephen's in the wrong place, so I'm looking from over here. And he's saying, you fooled us. But otherwise, most people are where you're supposed to be, which is wonderful. Let's continue at the bottom of page 8 with our family prayer. May we never take for granted the gift of Shabbat as we sit nestled in the Rocky Mountains, sharing this humble moment with family and friends. May the satisfaction of celebrating Shabbat hearten our spirits. Let Shabbat peace bring quiet to our souls. Allow this time set aside for song and prayer to bring us closer together in thoughts and deeds. Let this space we share become our place of devotion, glowing with reverence and filled with our traditions. May the end of this week encourage us to examine our actions and let us look ahead toward the new week and be worthy of all of God's blessings. The top of page 8, we join together. Shalom Aleichem.
Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon. Mi melech malachei hamlachim, Hakadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem l'shalom, malachei hashalom, malachei elyon. Mi melech malachei hamlachim, Hakadosh Baruch Hu. Baruchuni l'shalom, malachei hashalom, malachei elyon. V'melech malachei hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Tzeitzchem l'shalom, malachei hashalom, malachei elyon. V'melech malachei hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
Well, upon arriving in Jerusalem, the pilgrims looked up to the mountain and they said, Esainai, I lift my eyes to the mountains, from where does my help come? So we join with the cantor, page 12. We're really going to do it tomorrow.
Esainai el harim, me'ayin yavo ezri. Esainai el harim, me'ayin yavo ezri. Ezri ve'im Adonai, oseh shamayim va'aretz. Ezri ve'im Adonai, oseh shamayim va'aretz. Esainai el harim, me'ayin yavo ezri. Esainai el harim, me'ayin yavo ezri. Ezri ve'im Adonai, oseh shamayim va'aretz. Ezri ve'im Adonai, oseh shamayim va'aretz.
As we go back to the 16th century, to the town of Svat, it was here the center of Jewish mysticism that was written Lecha Dodi. Top of page 16, as we welcome the Sabbath bride.
Lecha lecha dodi likrata, Pnei Shabbat nikavela. Lecha lecha dodi likrata, Pnei Shabbat nikavela. Lecha dodi likrata, Pnei Shabbat nikavela. Lecha lecha dodi likrata, Pnei Shabbat nikavela. Shamor v'zachor b'ribor echad, Hishmi'anu el ha'meyuchad, Adonai echad u'shema echad. L'shem u'tiferet v'litchila lecha dodi likrata, Pnei Shabbat nikavela. Lecha lecha dodi likrata, Pnei Shabbat nikavela. Likrat Shabbat lechu v'nilcha, Hi mikor ha'beracha, Mirosh kedem netucha. מעשי במחשבה תחילה לך דודי לקראת קהל פני שבת נקבלה לך דודי לקראת קהל פני שבת נקבלה מקדש מלך עיר מלוכה קומיצי מתוך המלכה רב לך שבט בעמך בך והוא יכול עלייכם לך דודי לקראת קהל פני שבת נקבלה לך דודי לקראת קהל פני שבת נקבלה.
The bottom of page 18, we rise, face the rear of the sanctuary as we greet the Sabbath bride.
Boi v'shalom aseret bala Gam b'simcha u'b'tzola Tachem u'nei am segula Mo'ing hala La 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 Lecha dodi Likrat ka'ala Pnei Shabbat Nikabela Lecha dodi Likrat ka'ala Pnei Shabbat Nikabela Lecha dodi Likrat ka'ala Pnei Shabbat Nikabela Lecha dodi Likrat ka'ala Pnei Shabbat Nikabela.
Maybe seated. What I thought was so cute is we actually, after all those recordings that we did during COVID for people to be able to watch virtually, we're so successful now. We have greeting people from San Diego to Philadelphia, and they're all watching. But we said, so are you just sitting there with a drink and dinner or whatever? Do you get up when we get up? And do you turn around? And they do. So I was, thank you out there. So they follow along just as much, and they get to turn around and stand up when we do as well. So we're so glad to have them with us. The top of page 21, it's the Psalm 92. It's the Psalm for the Sabbath day. But what's so special about it is first recited in the temple in Jerusalem. And it's known by tradition as the Psalm of praise and thanksgiving. Let's continue responsively at the top of page 21. It's good to give thanks to you, O Lord, to praise your name through song, to speak in the morning of your loving kindness and your faithfulness each night. The music of the lute and the harp, the melody of the lyre, I'll sing with my delight as we continue at the bottom of page 20.
Sadikatamar Yifrach Ke'erez Bavanon Yizker Shetulim Devet Adonai Bechatzrot Eloheinu Yafrichu Od Yenuvun Beseva Deshenim Vera'ananim Yehiu Lehagi Ki Yashar Adonai Suri Ve'lav Latamo.
Bobby, I was going to have you read just for today, but we'll have your family read it for you in honor of your birthday. Okay. Not everybody wants to, but this is like a birthday reading for her. As we continue, page 23 at the top of the page.
Just for today, I will live one day only, forgetting yesterday and tomorrow, and not trying to solve the whole problem of life at once.
Just for today, I'll be unafraid of life and death, unafraid to enjoy the beautiful and be happy. People are as happy as they make up their minds to be.
Just for today, I will adjust myself to what is, and not try to adjust everything to suit me. If I cannot have what I like, I'll try to like what I have.
Just for today, I'll be agreeable, cheerful, charitable, do my best, praise people for what they can do, not criticize them for what they cannot do. If I find fault, I'll forgive it and forget it. I'll try not to improve or regulate anybody except myself.
Just for today, I'll have a plan. I may not follow it exactly, but I will have one. It will save me from worry, hurry, and indecision.
Just for today, I'll get people off my nerves and not get on theirs. I'll appreciate them for what they do and what they are.
Just for today, I will not show it if my feelings are hurt.
Today, a little time for quiet, to relax, to realize what life is and can be. Time to think about God and get a better perspective of myself.
Just for today, I will look at life with fresh eyes and discover the wonder of it. I will know that as I give to the world, so the world will give to me.
I've been reading this for 40 years, and I'm still trying to get people off my nerves and not get on theirs. So if we keep doing it, we'll keep working on it, because it's just not the... For page 24, as we rise, our call to worship, we join together in the Baruch. Thank you.
Baruch et Adonai HaMevorach Baruch Adonai HaMevorach HaMevorach Leolam Vail HaMevorach HaMevorach Leolam Vail.
May be seated. As we look around us, and especially as we go up the mountain tomorrow, we think about God's wondrous creations. Let's continue responsibly in English, the bottom page 28. As we join together on this Shabbat Eve, we take in the greatness of God's creations. As the snow melts from the mountain peaks on high, let our worries of the week flow away. And as the mountain springs give forth fresh water, let our souls feel refreshed. The creeks join streams and become the great rivers. Let our faith and love grow stronger. And as we stand in awe of the great beauty of the Rocky Mountains, let our faith in God increase and renew. And let this Shabbat be a time of peace. The top of page 28 as we continue.
Ahavat Olam Beit Yisrael Amcha Avta Torah u'mitzvot Chukim u'mishpatim Otanu lemadeta Alkeinu Adonai Eloheinu b'shochvenu Ukumenu nasiach bechukecha V'nismach b'divrei Toratecha U'mitzvotecha le'olam va'ed Ki hem chayenu Ve'orech yameinu Uvahem nekeyomam v'layla Nekeyomam v'layla ואהבתך אל תסיר ממנו לעולמים. ברוך אתה אדוני אוהב עמו ישראל, אוהב עמו ישראל.
Well, yesterday, as we unrolled our new Torah that was given to us from the Strauss family, all the way across the room here, and we come to one section, and you get to recognize a few things in there. The writing was quite difficult to follow, but not too much for our cantor who noticed the Shema, and she was able to lead us in chanting it upside down. Which you weren't upside down, but the writing was.
That's right, that's right.
Now we have some kids in here that are going to lead us right side up.
Okay, everyone over in that room, I know you can hear us. Come out and come help lead us in the Shema. And Maya, you guys can come help us too. Come on up. Maya, no, you can, even if you just want to stand up. Maya, Ziva, Lila, I think they're in there. I don't know, maybe the sound's not on in there.
Please.
That's okay.
You can come up with them.
You can come up. You can come help me do it. You don't have to. It's okay.
Page 30 in our prayer books.
No, okay. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Vaed Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודך והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבבך ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ושבתך וקומך ושרתם מאוד על ידך והיו לטוטפות בעיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
The middle of page 34 will continue responsibly with Hashkivenu. When we sing the prayer, it's beautiful, but also to see some of the words and to realize what we're singing is so important, especially these days. We'll continue responsively the middle of the page. We seek peace and comfort. Shield us from the hatred and destruction that plague so many corners of our world and console those in need. May God provide peace and comfort in the refuge of His wings. Protect us from concerns and distress that keep us from thinking clearly. May we live each day with honesty, grace, and integrity, so we lie down each night free from worry and angst, and awake each morning with renewed life. It's good counsel, so we'll make each day worthy of your promises. Guard our going forth and our coming in, and bless us with life and peace. May we always feel protected in the shadow of your wings. For blessed are you, eternal God, whose shelter of peace spreads over us, over all people, and over Jerusalem, the top of the page.
Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom vehamidenu malkeinu lechayim. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom vehamidenu malkeinu lechayim. Ushmor tzeitzenu uvoenu lechayim Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leShalom Vehamidenu Malkeinu leChaim Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leShalom Vehamidenu Malkeinu leChaim.
Found in the book of Exodus, in 6 days the Lord created the heavens and the earth. 7th day he ceased from his work and rested. We'll join together, page 36, the Shamru.
V'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat לדורותם ברית עולם ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם כי 6 ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ וביום השביעי שבת היינה בשבת שבת וינפש שבת שבת וינפש.
The Birkat HaGomel prayer expresses the miracle of healing and full restoration to one's health. And to our family and friends, indeed, we think about restoration to life itself. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam, hagomel l'chayavim tovot shedigim alani kol tov. May God, who has bestowed kindness upon us, continue to bestow goodness upon each of us and restore us to our health. For those in our community who are in need of healing, of body, mind, or spirit, if you have a loved one who is in need of healing, just a moment as we move about the sanctuary, please share their name with us as we continue the top of page 38.
Mishaperach avotenu mekor habracha leimotenu. May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen.
We express our thoughts and our prayers to Gail Balin, Sue Beiser, Linda Colin, Bonnie Colton, Blanche Deutsch, Lynn Deutschman, Carol Ann Finn, Jane Friedman and Steve Friedman, Deborah Goldman, Cliff Goldman, Jeff Goldsmith, Mike Herman, Ken Imler, Donald Jaffe, Warren Janowitz, Mary Sue Katz, Skip Clowens, Herman Keek, Ryan Kushner, Renee Levine, Renee Myers, Stephen Reese, Chip Ruth, Roberta Scheller, Sam Schwartz, Bernie Shavitz, Ann Sheldon, Bill Silvers, Dina Stempler, Maury Strauss, Alan Tenenbaum, Tova Weinstock, Tevi Wellens, Goldie Wetcher, and Nikki Winokur.
Shabbat. with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen.
As we turn to page 40 and rise, we'll continue with the Reader's Kaddish.
Yitkadal Yitkadash Shemei Rabbah
Amen.
Yamad Divra Kirtei V'yamlich Malchutei
V'chayechon v'yomechon u'chayedecho Beit Yisrael Ba'gala u'vizman kariv
Ve'imeru
Amen. Yesh merabba mevarach ve'alam lameho maya yitbarach.
Yitzbarach V'yishtabach Yitpar V'yitroma V'yitnaseh V'yitadar V'yitaleh V'yitala Shemei D'Kudsha
Brechu
Le'elam Min Kol Birchata V'shirata
Tushbechata v'nechemata Tamiran b'yama.
Ve'imeru
Amen. Be not afraid of silence. It's more powerful than the unpolished word. It allows God's voice to be heard and tears and doubt to tumble out. Page 42 at the top of the page, we continue, and then silently through page 57.
Adonai Sefatai Tiftach Ufi Agitei Latecha Adonai Sefatai Tiftach Ufi Agitei Latecha.
May be seated when you completed the Amidah. Let there be peace in the world, goodness, blessing, grace, kindness, and compassion for us and your people Israel as the cantor continues. Sim Shalom.
Sim Shalom Tova Uvracha. Sim Shalom Tova Uvracha. Sim Shalom Tova Uvracha. Sim Shalom Tova Uvracha. Chen v'chesed, chen v'chesed v'rachamim. Chen v'chesed, Chen v'chesed v'rachamim aleinu. Sim shalom tova uveracha. Sim shalom tova uveracha. Sim shalom tova uveracha. Sim shalom tova uveracha.
Well, what a beautiful ceremony we had just yesterday. Everything is kind of merging one into another with the many things that we've been doing. But we celebrated the attaching of our Yemenite Torah scroll to its Eis Chaim, to its new rollers. Really, the only other time you might see something like that is on Simchat Torah, but it's already attached to the rollers, and this was a first chance to have many of you who are here today actually sew it together onto the rollers. And we'll be celebrating that tomorrow on top of the mountain, where successfully you'll be reading our first Aliyah. Rhonda, we're honored to have that. And we have reading for the first time from that very special scroll. But as we scroll through the Torah each year, there's always someone who says, why do we have to start over? We've already read that thing. Do we have to keep reading it every year? It's the same stories every single year. And it's kind of a fair question, but if you consider the fact that we could spend the rest of our year reading prophets or kings or Mishnah or Talmud every Shabbat, we'd be able to read something else. So the rabbis in the 11th century were actually asked the same question. And they decided that we should read the entire Torah every year and then start all over again on Simchat Torah. The reason they gave and the basis for it was they said the basis of Judaism can be found in the Torah. So let's take a look. As we began down at this end and we were sewing together the book of Genesis or Bereshit, we learned about how God required us to have ethical behavior. Ethical behavior from every human being, because God said we were created equally, Tselem Elohim, in God's own image. Now these ideas, which thousands of years ago were put into the scroll, they even changed the way in which governments, the way that they would treat their citizens. I don't think there's any way that the words, it is self-evident that all men are created equal, could have come from somewhere else. Well, as we're rereading the Torah, it reminds us that we have to continue to provide equal rights for all the citizens, not just here, but throughout the world. Well, in the second book, we have the book of Shemot, which is the book of Exodus. That's that main story. And as we were going through it, we finished with Genesis. We started to look, and all of a sudden, Moses' name was everywhere as we're scrolling through it and ready to attach it. And it talks about how God frees us, of course, from Egyptian slavery, brings us to Mount Sinai, and then we could see the Ten Commandments. And if you get to look at a Torah scroll, it's always very specific. You'll see along the left side, low, 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 all those things you're not supposed to do. And as you're going, you can actually see where the Ten Commandments is found. Well, we can be proud of the fact of the impact that we've had on so many liberation movements as well throughout the world. And these movements have always used the book of Exodus. That was their blueprint for freedom for their people. And these words still have meaning, I know, even 4,000 years later. Vayikra is a little bit unusual because when you come to the very first word of Vayikra, the little last letter, the Aleph, when you're spelling it, is always half the size of the word. No one knows why, but maybe the scribe was squinting, did a little Aleph, and from then on we always have to do this. But when you come to the beginning of the book of Vayikra or Leviticus, it's always going to be the same. And it has the rituals and the ethical mitzvot, what we eat, how we conduct business, how spouses take care of each other, take care of their children. There's holiness in all that we do, and that's what the book teaches us. In Bamidbar, which is actually translated as in the wilderness, we call it the book of Numbers also. It reminds us that life is lived in a wilderness of temptations, disappointments, and failures. And as we read this each year and we're scrolling through it, We're taught that we have to persevere. We persevere through our setbacks, that in the end, our life journeys are worthwhile and certainly fulfilling because of the journey that we had to take. Well, that last book, which was one of our most interesting to look at last night, is the book of Devarim or Deuteronomy. Again, we see that life just isn't perfect, or really not even fair at times. At the end of the Torah, we read about the death of Moses and the entire generation that left Egypt. We're talking 600,000 people were leaving with him. They weren't allowed to enter into the promised land. So even though the children of Israel can't cross the Jordan River and go in, they still try to improve their lives all the way until the end of their lives. Our lives also, I know, are never perfect, and we might not reach those promised lands that we're seeking and looking for. But I think, like the children of Israel, the lesson we get as we scroll through all 5 books is that we just never give up. And that's why we read it again, just to remind us when we start over again in October, okay, we have all these lessons, but then never give up. We have to persevere and to make the world a little better despite its shortcomings. And that's why we review and reread all these lessons every year. We read it's a tree of life to those that hold fast to it, and all of its supporters are happy. That's why we reread the Torah each year. Amen. Well, I don't even know where to begin about tomorrow. It's going to be quite the service. Luckily, we have seating for about 8,000 people on top of the mountain, which is good. But the people were inquiring, and the weather's going to be great. And we have an ufraf, which is a prenuptial blessing. We have a baby naming. We have an anniversary. And probably someone will come. Bubby, your birthday, we're saying tonight too. So happy birthday to you. And then our surprise musical guest.
We are actually very lucky. In a much more casual fashion, Colleen is returning to us tomorrow. Yes, so she won't be playing the entire service, and she will be just on violin. But she came back. She and the drummer connected after last week, and so she's coming back to play an entire series of shows in Vail this coming week. So she'll be around this week, and she decided to pop into our mountaintop service. So she'll be joining us for a selection of songs during mountaintop tomorrow.
That kind of popping in is good.
I know. Yes. We're pretty lucky when someone like Colleen decides to pop in.
Right, welcome. We're glad to have you with us and visiting and taking a break. Did you have to tell your commanding officers at Shabbat I'm not flying tonight? Or what did they tell you? Okay. Well, they're visiting from HATS, which is the high-altitude training that Israeli pilots get to come here just 2 weeks. You should have said, can I stay for the summer? But they get to learn high-altitude training, which really would be more difficult, I guess, to learn in Israel. And we're glad to have you and joining with us. We'll see you on the mountain tomorrow. And to lead us in some of the prayers as well, like Hatikva. We're going to be calling you up from the crowd, so welcome to all of you.
And tomorrow morning, we'll also be doing a processional with the Torah from the top of the gondola. So we invite you, once you make it to the top of the gondola, to hang nearby, and we'll walk together and sing with the Torah as we bring it over to where we'll be holding services.
I'm sure in the 40 years of B'nai Vail it hasn't happened. So you've got your assigned people to carry the chuppah. And then you'll be carrying the Torah together with others. And it's a tradition that goes all the way back, that you will have a chuppah that's going to walk from the gondola, not necessarily ever seen in Vail, all the way to the wedding deck, and that's where we'll be having it in the ark for the very first time and then reading from it. Let me introduce our president, Stephen Wellens, and he has more announcements for us.
Shabbat Shalom, and welcome. Welcome, everybody streaming. Tomorrow should be one of these amazing days. Last night, if you had the opportunity to be here, and you were all invited, to see this remarkable Torah and watching our congregants and the families stitch this to the rollers was amazing. And Mark and Rhonda, we're forever grateful for your generosity. But I was struck by the look on your faces as you sat down and finished restoring that Torah. And while your hand wasn't as steady as the rabbi's, I think it was perfect. And I hope that you and your family will always have that memory, as we will every time we see this beautiful Torah, which you will all see tomorrow. If you weren't here, it's something you've never seen. So there is something going on tomorrow. We welcome you to join us. We also have another celebration coming up. We have August 6th. We'll be doing it Creekside. We'll have another big event. We've got on the 15th, we're going to have a discussion on the history of the Western Wall at the hospital. You're all welcome to attend. August 23rd, Book Harbor, and August 14th, we'll talk about Israel. We're going to have a tour guide here, so we welcome you to look at it and to sign up, and that'll be at Annette Romer's house. So there's a lot in this. It seems like the summer's winding down, but we're really getting ready for the fall. So Shabbat Shalom, welcome, and we thank you for sharing it with us.
And we also have our religious school and Hebrew school program starting back up in the fall. So if you know a local family that would like to join us, everyone is welcome there. And we are also starting a Jewish choir this fall. So anyone, all ages, everyone is welcome to join us for that as well. I know Debbie Levy. You're the first one on the list.
Okay.
We know. Do we have? Yes, I think we have officially settled on Shirim Baharim, songs in the mountains. Shirim Baharim.
I had to make sure we weren't going to get bored. So we
had to, yeah.
Yesterday we met with the other chaplains over at the hospital just down the road, and they're very excited about putting up the kotel, which is the western wall in the hospital chapel. It wouldn't be anywhere else that I've ever heard in the world that when you walk into your chapel here in Vail, that the stones came from Mitzpeh Ramon near Beersheba to Miami, trucked up to Colorado, and now they're sitting at a kind of a quarry here where they're going to be cut into the size of the kotel, the western wall, with little spaces for cracks, and it's going to be amazing. That'll be next summer. It's quite the project, but we're working on that. There's going to be so many more things that we're looking forward to.
And as we sat yesterday there's the new staff chaplain at the hospital, it was just a really good reminder that Rabbi Newman and I are always here. If you are not feeling well, or if something happens, or if you find yourself in the hospital, please make sure to give us a call, and we will be sure to come and visit. Or if you have any other needs, we're here for you.
Thank you. Well, we'll return to our prayer books now on page 60 as we rise and join together. Aleinu.
Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, l'ateit gdula l'yotzer bereshit, shelo asanu kiyoyei ha'arasot, ve'lo tzavonu k'mishpechot ha'adama, shelo sam chalkeinu kahem, ve'goraleinu kechol hamonam, va'anachnu korim, u'mishtachavim u'modim, lifnei melech, Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, V'nemar, V'haya Adonai, L'melech al kol ha'aretz, Bayom hahu, Yiyeh Adonai echad, Ushemo echad.
At this moment, in memory of our loved ones who are no longer with us, we join hands in love and remembrance. A link has been broken in the chain that bound us together, yet strong bonds of home and love hold us one to another. In solemn testimony to that unbroken faith which links the generations one to another, we call to mind those whose yahrzeit we observe this month. Fred Allen, Joan Barr, Gerda Berendt, Janet Brown, Harry S. Bush, Edith Cantor, Morris Cohen, Thomas Daniel, Mark Ettinger, Pauline Mazursky, Faye Fermansky, James Gaynor, Arthur Glickman, Beryl Goldstein, Harry Goldstein, Miriam Graubert, Joseph Guss, Barbara Gutzman, Khadja Haling, Kenneth Hertz, Arnold Hodis, Eric Jost, Stuart Camber, Jerome Clowens, Selma Cohn, Ida Laberwitz, Norman Lantzman, George Lerner, Robert Lutweiler, Betty Levin, Dr. Herman Moore, Joellen Moltak, Gertrude Palikow, Ruth Plotnick, Edna Corton, Max Rappaport, Regina Resnick, Regina Scherf, Neil Schur, Myrna Sigmund, Ellen Rhoda Sullivan, Jay Soslin, Betty Spitzmiller, Jacqueline Steinberg, Benjamin Stemple, Evelyn Trout, Mary Weinstein, Morris Wetcher, Walter Wolf, Jody Rubel, Jürgen Yashik, Joel Sislowski, Jeremy Nuremberg. Also, our sincerest condolences to the family of Pedro Prince. He passed away just 2 nights ago, and he's going to have a memorial and his burial down in Mexico. Also, our condolences to the family of Henry Bornstein. He passed away last week as well, and his funeral is actually going to be taking place on Tuesday. And another condolence, and it's a remembrance for myself as well, to B. Sklerowitz. She's out in San Diego, and it's the yard site for Chuck Sklerowitz, who I spent a long, long time with. He's a former Navy guy, CIA guy. We really enjoyed him as part of our congregation at Camp Pendleton. And if anyone else is observing a yard site. The mourner's cottage can be found in our prayer books on page 64, and those who wish may join with me as we say, Yitzgadal v'yitzkadash shemei Rabbah, B'alma divrach hirutei v'yamlich malchutei, B'chayechon v'yomechon v'chayei d'chol Beit Yisrael, B'agalav izman kariv imramein, Yehei shmei Rabbah mevarach le'olam omei omaya, Yitvarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh, Yithadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei dekudesha b'richu, le'elam min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechelata, da'miran b'alma v'imramein, Yehi shlomo rava min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu v'yal kol Yisrael v'imramein, oseh shalom v'imramav, hu yaseh shalom, aleinu v'yal kol Yisrael v'imramein. Well, you may be seated. There's a tradition that with every Torah scroll there would be a wimple, or pronounced in Europe a vimple, and it's after you put the Torah and roll it together, you have to tie it with something, bind it with something. I remember when I was working on the scrolls in London, and there were about 1,800 Torahs that we were working on at one time, and someone from France was writing a paper on vimples. And they said, "Do you have one?" Well, sometimes when the Nazis collected these Holocaust scrolls, they put 2 or 3 on them. They had about 3,000 wimples, and the guy stayed there for months taking pictures and writing about them. And then it occurred to me at, maybe noon yesterday, that we didn't have a wimple for our Torah that we were putting together. So Janet got on her sewing machine and made a wimple for us, and we have a beautiful leather one out of the same kosher deerskin that we'll be wrapping it up with tomorrow. So there's so many wonderful traditions that are part of our faith. And one of them is choosing an Adon Olam song.
That is a tradition here,
yes.
isn't it? Does anyone have a request for Adon Olam tonight? Don't all jump in at once. We're gonna do that one tomorrow. Or no, that's not what we're doing tomorrow. Okay, yeah, we'll do that one. I don't know if we've ever done that here. That's great. I love it. An actual Adon Olam request for Adon Olam. That might be a first too. Adon Olam Asher Malach B'terem Kol Yitzir Nivra Le'nasa B'chefzo Kol Azai Melech Shembo Nikra Ve'acharei Kichlot Hakol Levad Lo Yimloch Nora Ve'hu Haya Ve'hu Hoveh Ve'hu Yeh B'tifara Ve'hu Echad Ve'ein Sheni Lehamshilo Lehachbira B'li Reshit B'li Tachlit V'lo Ha'od Ham Yisra Ve'hu Eli Ve'chai Gali V'tzor Chachli V'etzara Ve'hu Nisi U'manosli Benat Koshi Ve'yom V'kra Ve'yado Akir Ruchi Ve'etishan Ve'ayira Ve'imruchi Geviati Adonai Li
me, that's kind of like the Neil Diamond one, I think, because he sang that in Jazz Singer, and I always think about, and Kol Nidre too, so he does one at each end of the movie.
I do, yeah, we do some Neil Diamond for high holidays.
We should. Well, this is a call that you brought for us tonight. Thank you so much as we all rise for a closing blessing. Adonai Ozli Amo Yatain, Adonai Varechet Amo V'Shalom. May the Lord grant strength into his people, bless all peoples with peace.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam,
Borei
pori
hagafen
hagafen l'chaim. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lachem min haaretz b'tei avon.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. Bim bam bim 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 bam bim 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 bam bim bam bim 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 bam bim 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 bam. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat 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 Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat 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 Shalom.